For centuries, we've been sold a lie about the Roman Empire. History books tell us that Rome's domination was inevitable, a destiny written in the stars for the legions to march across the known world. But the reality is far more chaotic and terrifying for the Romans. Before Rome became the master of the Mediterranean, it was nearly erased by a rival that didn't play by the rules of conquest. This enemy didn't build an empire on ideology or patriotism. They built it on cold, hard cash. This was a city that operated less like a kingdom and more like the board of a ruthless multinational corporation. To understand how close Rome came to extinction, you have to look at Carthage not as a standard ancient city, but as the world's first economic superpower. Founded by Phoenician settlers, they controlled the sea, the ports, and the logistics. They held the choke points of the ancient world: Sicily, Sardinia, and the coast of North Africa. They didn't need to conquer vast territories of dirt because they controlled the flow of goods. Their harbor was a technological marvel, an engine of commerce that allowed them to repair and launch fleets faster than anyone else. But this massive wealth created a dangerous arrogance. They believed that any problem could be solved if you just threw enough money at it. This philosophy extended to how they waged war, and it set the stage for one of history's biggest clashes of ideology. Rome fought with citizens, men who were loyal to the state because they were the state. The Carthaginian army was a collection of hired guns, Numidian cavalry, Iberian infantry, and specialists from across the world. It was a brilliant system on paper. It meant Carthage didn't have to bleed its own population to fight battles. They could project power without disrupting their economy. But this model had a catastrophic hidden flaw. A citizen soldier fights for his home. A mercenary fights for a paycheck. And if that paycheck bounces, your army doesn't just go home. They turn on you. This weakness was brutally exposed during the First Punic War. It wasn't a battle of hatred. It was a battle for the trade routes of Sicily. Rome, the amateur land power, had to bankrupt itself, building a navy from scratch just to compete. But while Rome adapted, Carthage relied on its bank account. When Carthage eventually lost and the money ran dry, they couldn't pay their mercenaries. The result wasn't just a defeat, it was a rebellion that nearly destroyed the city from the inside out. But this is where the story takes a dark and fascinating turn. Instead of accepting defeat, one Carthaginian family decided to privatize the war. Enter Hamilcar Barca, a man who realized the government in Carthage was too cautious to do what was necessary. He created a semi-private empire, a sovereign corporation fueled by Spanish silver that operated independently of the politicians back home. Most people know Hannibal for the elephants in the Alps, but that misses the genius of his strategy. Hannibal wasn't just a general, he was a financial disruptor. Hannibal understood that he couldn't just beat Rome's armies, he had to break Rome's wallet. His entire campaign in Italy was designed to sever Rome's alliances and shatter its tax base. He knew that Rome relied on a network of Italian cities for funding and manpower. If he could prove Rome couldn't protect them, the money would stop flowing. If the tax base collapsed, Rome's credit would freeze and the war would end. It was a strategy of financial attrition. He annihilated tens of thousands of Roman soldiers, creating a panic that should have caused a bank run on the Roman state. In any other era, against any other enemy, this would have been checkmate. When they ran out of money, they didn't collapse. They borrowed. The Roman state convinced its wealthy citizens to loan their fortunes to the war effort, promising repayment only after victory. It was a level of economic patriotism that a mercenary state like Carthage couldn't replicate. The tide finally turned when a Roman general named Scipio Africanus realized the only way to beat Hannibal was to cut off his funding. Scipio invaded Spain, seizing the silver mines and the supply depots that kept the Carthaginian war machine running. It was an economic decapitation strike. Without the Spanish silver, the Barcid family's private empire crumbled. When the final showdown happened at Zama, Carthage was already spiritually and financially bankrupt. They were forced to surrender, accepting terms that turned them from a superpower into a client state. However, the most chilling part of this rivalry happened decades later. Stripped of its military, Carthage did what it did best. It hustled. They pivoted to agriculture and high-efficiency trade. Within a few generations, the city was wealthy again. So wealthy that it terrified the Roman Senate. This fear wasn't about armies, it was about relevance. Conservative voices in Rome, like Cato, looked at Carthage's booming economy and realized that you can truly defeat a commercial rival as long as they are profitable. The famous line, "Carthage must be destroyed," wasn't a call for security. It was a call for market elimination. In 146 BC, Rome didn't just conquer Carthage, they dismantled it. It was a systematic erasure of a competitor that refused to stay down. But looking back, the irony is massive. Rome destroyed Carthage, but in doing so, they became them. To defeat the merchants, Rome had to learn to value naval power, international credit, and global logistics. The story of Rome and Carthage isn't just ancient history. It's the blueprint for how superpowers rise, compete, and ultimately how they destroy each other.